I present to you my custom 10th scale front wheel drive Nitro RC car. This was mostly made possible with some carbon fiber and a large donation from a Traxxas Jado. Goddamn. Now listen here. This is a fast Honda. It's got the airbox coming out the headlight. Can't be slow with a mod like that. Alright, at this point, I know exactly what you're thinking. That thing's pretty cool. I wonder why I've never seen one before. Well, guess what? Today is your lucky day. Let's take a look at the chart. Now, listen here. A lot of people got 10th scale electric rear-wheel drive drag cars. Few people got them in front-wheel drive. And there's a couple guys who got them like these rear-wheel drive nitro cars. I actually belong to a group that races them. Team N301. They are fantastic people. But not enough of them to have the weirdos who like front-wheel drive cars, and that leaves just me left. So, enough of my yapping. Let's dive into this thing.
Quick overview of the car. Drive RC body, DE, small tire, wheels. I got the headlight cutout. You can see the air vent, translucent red for the tail lights. Noticed a lot of people didn't do that. A lot of people use bigger tires, and the DE tires fit the best. So using a FlySky G7P, I think. It's got really good programming, and there's like 80 bucks. But taking this off, custom carbon chassis I made. There's the air box. Take that off to show you how the servo works. So I got, typically, I bought a Jado. I bought a Jado, and I completely scrapped it to build this. And typically the way it worked is you had
one servo that controlled the throttle and the brake.
This has its own servo for the brake, so you hit the throttle, it opens, but when I close, see how that servo doesn't move, and it only moves this one to stop the car. So that worked pretty good. I got a roto start from Sullivan Products. Trying to think. A lot of clearancing issues right there. That was pretty difficult. Yeah, it's got the 2-speed trans in it. A lot of little clearancing / 4x4 front axles. No, front hubs is what I meant. And these are slash 2-wheel drive rear arms, and they've been clearanced right there to allow the hub to clear, and had a bunch of issues with the shocks. So those are, I think, the front Jado links right there. I don't know what links those are. Those are some random links. Lock the diff and the trans. This is just a servo mount you can get off Amazon that lifts the servo up, and then it's got a Stampede 2-wheel drive servo horn on it. Jado fuel tank. Just got the batteries double-sided taped to the chassis. And this essentially is just a slash 2-wheel drive rear end. It's on cut / 2-wheel drive rear arms. I just chopped them off and I drilled my own hole because they weren't working right. Custom links, got the Jado shocks on there, 2-wheel drive rear trans case that has been cut, and there's nothing in there obviously. Yeah, and then Proline body mounts, but carbon chassis, all custom. Let's see if I can get a better look at that. Recessed all the screws. Scorched RC sells a nice kit that has the tool to recess the carbon and cut the carbon. I think it was like 30 bucks. And then throughout this build, I've used these black standoffs. I bought them in 60 millimeters off AliExpress. Then I bought a 3 millimeter cap so I could do this servo right there, so I could cut it the exact length, I'd tap it. It's really not a big pain in the ass. They're really cheap. Trying to think. Yeah, that's pretty much it. To do, why is this thing bugging out? To do the carbon chassis, I prototype on foam. I got, here, one sec. Whenever I build stuff out of carbon, I always start with foam board. And I really like the foam board that has these like 1/2-inch squares and makes everything so much easier. It saves me hours on these projects. And the reason I like foam board is because I use 3mm carbon fiber just so I know it's thick enough. I don't really have to think about it too much. And the foam board is relatively close to that thickness. So I start out with the size of the board and I trim it down to what I think I will need. And you can buy these boards on AliExpress for $30 to $40. I think this is 500 millimeters by 200 millimeters, 3 millimeters thick. And so I just put the parts on there, I trace them out, and then I go under and I'll make these little templates out of like parchment paper, and that's how I get these holes. Let me see if I have some real quick. Alright, so I found one of the parchment paper, but I actually found out that tape works better. So you just tape over the flat surface on the bottom, take an X-Acto knife, cut out the hole, just remember the orientation, and then you can place it down on your outline. Yeah, this is not for this project, but that's pretty easy. And when it comes to installing things, like I had that servo to install, I'll pop up a picture of that mount here. But what I use is double-sided tape, and I'll wet it down with some water so it's not very sticky. And then I'll place the object on, I'll push it down real hard, and you'll see the outline of where it should go. And I do that on the final as well. So when I cut out the carbon, I just cut out the general shape. I don't drill any of the holes, really. Alright, so I cut my carbon using a jigsaw. I'm going to use these Bosch carbon fiber drill bits. They work really well. They don't really splinter the carbon fiber very much. And Scorched Parts sells some drill bits for your standard size, and they have a tool that will recess the screws. I found that this was really the most useful part about this kit. I just use regular drill bits. Sometimes it's helpful to like start with a smaller bit, but depends how much you care about how good it looks.
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't think this car performed very well. But, just like they say, you can't be fat and annoying. So this car couldn't suck and be ugly. So I spent a bunch of time making it look good. And the majority of the things I spent the time on was making sure the car had good fitment to the body. That's because, the tires fit. It's got a clean fitment. They look appropriate. And this Drive RC body has a shorter wheelbase than a traditional 10th scale. And it's a bit narrower. One of the issues I had with this build was there not being a lot of room for an air filter under the body, which required me to make my own out of Lexan, which, aside from being a little fragile, has worked pretty well. One of my favorite parts of the car is the roto start, which uses an Allen wrench that I cut the bent part off and I threw in my drill. It works great. And I think that about covers the full build, but I just wanted to throw one last thing out there. I'm not typically the biggest fan of nitro vehicles, but drag racing nitro vehicles sort of acts like a stick shift class of racing. It's a challenge in itself to make it to the line with these cars, and I have a lot of fun with it, and I'd recommend you try it out, and I'd like to see more of it. And with that being said, have a good one.